Our first panelist is Dr. Shailja Vaidya Gupta. Dr. Shailja is former senior advisor at the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. She was a former advisor at the Department of Biotechnology and is currently with the India chapter of Coalition of Epidemic Preparedness in Innovations at Translational Health Science and Technology Institute in Faridabad. Her experience and expertise lie in international cooperation and science policy. Our next panelist, I welcome Professor Amitabha. Professor Amitabha is a developmental biologist. He studies how bone and cartilage form in developing chick and mouse embryos. As an extension of these fundamental studies, he also tries to understand the pathology of certain skeletal disorders such as osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. He's the current head of the Biological Sciences and Bioengineering Department of IIT Kanpur and has been associated with the Technology Business Incubator of IIT Kanpur, popularly known as SIC, since 2013. During the COVID pandemic, SIC incubated companies executed some ambitious projects. He's also a member of the National Advisory Council. Next panelist is Dr. Vrisha Madhuri. Professor Vrisha is from the Paediatric Orthopaedics Department, Ida Scudder Chair for Clinical Research at Christian Medical College, Vellore, India. Her major research interest is disability devices, clubfoot, DDH, and regenerative strategies in muscle, cartilage, and bone regeneration. And I also welcome our last panelist, Dr. Chirayu Padhiar. Dr. Chirayu is a medical doctor working as a senior medical director at one of the largest stem cell banks of India, LifeCell International Private Limited, with over 20 years of experience. He's proficient in hematopoietic and mesenchymal stem cell processing technologies, transfusion medicine, immunology, flow cytometry, prenatal and neonatal genetic screening, infectious diseases, PCR, etc. I will also welcome our moderator, Professor Prakriti, Tayalia. She is an associate professor in the Department of Biosciences and Bioengineering at IIT Bombay. She has more than 15 years of interdisciplinary experience working in the field of biomaterials and immunology with applications in immunotherapy, drug delivery, and tissue engineering. Her work focuses on utilizing engineering tools, state-of-the-art characterization techniques, and biological assays to develop physiologically relevant materials that would support multicellular culture in a more controlled fashion. With this, I welcome all the panel members and the moderator on the stage, please.
Build up. वाइड करावं लागेल थोडं. बस एवढं.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll just welcome all the panel members again. So we have a good mix of people from industry, academia, government agency, and from a clinical perspective. So Dr. Vrisha represents the clinical representation. Dr. Shailja, part of the government, has been part of the government agencies for so long. Professor Amitabha represents our academic, representation, and Dr. Chirayu from the industry. So let me welcome all of you again, and we'll start off with discussing. We've had a great, discussion since morning about the industry-academia collaborations, and I would like to start off with, our panel members, giving their sort of inputs on some of the challenges that we foresee or we've had in industry academia collaborations. And so maybe Dr. Vrisha, if you would like to start off.
Most of the drug discovery, which takes place, usually takes about 20 years to come to the market. And most of the drugs or products which come to the market are usually 20 years in the making, starting off with a very long process when you discover the drug and then you see their off-target effects, side effects, and then you do the animal trial, clinical trial, and then by the time it passes all the stages, then it takes many, many years. In the recent past, the COVID-19 vaccine, we saw how this whole process is speeding up. And that is a great challenge as well as a great opportunity because we have learned how to do it well. And not only take it to the market, but take it to the market in the next few years. I think this is one of the greatest opportunities.
We have been talking about public-private collaborations forever, I think. And I think the time has come to think a little differently, break the mold, be a little disruptive in the way industry and academia see each other and collaborate with each other. The Government of India has established a huge capacity of both mind and infrastructure across the country. You name it, and the best facility is available in the country, including of the mind. And I think the industry needs to be a little bit more forthcoming and use this huge capacity to do things in a way which will be a win-win both for the academia, the industry, and finally the country as a whole. And as we go along, there are some ideas in my mind where I think immediate collaborations can be seen, especially in the area of drug discovery. And I come to that.
I have. Thank you for having me here. See, I'll start with a little background that academia industry collaborations have not really been that popular in the country, but many of us took Covishield vaccine that directly came out of the academia. It is from Oxford University. What we need to understand is that industry is answerable to its investors. So we cannot expect them to invest in projects where the return on investment is not immediate. And in India, it is particularly the patience period is a little bit shorter. And just to connect the dots, some of you may know that I championed a project at IIT Kanpur to bring an invasive ventilator during the COVID crisis. After that, we did the same thing for oxygen plants, and now I am championing an artificial heart development project. It's an LVAD, left ventricular assist device. In all the three cases, what is common is that the demand was already out there. We just developed the technology to meet the demand. And that is what is acutely lacking in the academia. We are so cloistered in our own small circle that we don't really know what the society needs. So we do our research based on whatever we know. And there the two ends do not meet. And that's where industry can play a significant role. The way I say it and I see it is that academics think that industry has so much money, why shouldn't they invest? And industry thinks that these academics, they only care for publications, why should we bother about them? These two worlds do not meet. And I would like to thank Abhijit and the entire organizing team for putting this program together. Well, this is a very small but a genuine first step in introducing industry and academia to each other so that we at least know what we are individually capable of and where we can join hands so that we can work together for problem dictated product development. So that's what I would like to start with. Thank you.
Yeah, so from the industry side, I will say that industry academia collaboration is definitely a very fruitful thought process. It should be done. Basically, mainly because the industry नहीं चलेगा. See, basically hello. So from the industry, the fact is that we don't have the patience, we don't have the necessary energy, or we don't have the intent to do so much of R&D for 20 years, wait patiently and then come out with the molecule. And it's not the problem that I don't want to or other companies don't want to. Their investors demand. Investors wants quarterly report. They want you to show deliver in a quarter. And in that scenario, if I tell them that I have to wait for 5 years, 20 years, they're not going to give me money. I don't have money, I cannot put in R&D. So which is where the academia definitely plays a very significant role. Because the fact is that, see, everywhere you have 10 ideas or 100 ideas, out of that maybe one will fructify. And out of those 1 ideas, they will again go to 10 ideas which will actually go to commercial stage. So in that way, like out of thousands of ideas, if one is going to fructify, industry is never going to take that kind of a risk. That is a risk on investment, basically. And which is where academia definitely helps bridge the gap. I mean, if you want to move the science forward, this particular collaboration is necessary.
market of scientists working on structural proteins. And we have the infrastructure. We have cryo PMs. We've set up, I think, half a dozen cryo PMs across the country, which should be exploited by the industry, by the academicians too. People are looking at new drugs which come from India, and the industry should take a little bit more risk. The academics should take a little bit more risk. I think this being a risk-averse society is our biggest challenge. We are not willing to take any risk. That's why we cannot be big players in the world. We continue to be our small players which should be very happy with that.
See, from why this does not materialize, I tell you, like if a student is there and she has some brilliant idea, she comes to Professor Abhijit. If it is scientifically a strong idea, he will approve it. Same idea if I go and take to my chairman, he will tell me, show me the financial feasibility first. What is the viability of this project? How much you need, how much you will be able to make, and in how much time. I will first answer the financial viability. Same idea is there. What she is giving, what I am giving. Obviously approves. My chairman will not approve. So, because for us also it is like I make 100 crores, out of 100 crores I cannot invest 50 crores in research. I can only invest 2 crores, 3 crores. 2%, 5% of my revenue or profit I can invest. It is justifiable because they also have to answer their investors. Beyond that, I cannot invest. I am not allowed to invest. And in 5 crores, if you are telling a good drug can come out, it is not possible. Not possible. For me also, I develop a drug. I got a MSc mesenchymal stem cells, which is now going on the pathway of drug. Like we are into phase 2 trial now. That took me 3 years. And I spent almost 10 crores on that. 10 crores, only that is only approval I got. Because it was a good idea at that time. And today, sadly because of COVID, but now it is becoming a drug now. But the fact is this, that for us, money comes in passive. Like I ask for 1,000 rupees, I will get 1 rupee. That's it. Whereas in academia, you have to be scientifically brilliant and it all clicks.
But the money is still a problem. So, Prof. Amitabha, like what do you foresee as, see in general as the challenges from the academia side? I mean, like, so you've probably seen how things are different from the development of a medical device versus, a drug, for example, and how, the regulatory bodies or the guidelines can, somehow help with that.
See, like for medical devices, the gestation period is rather short. If we do it right, even a very complex device you can develop in 2 to 3 years' time. Absolutely top of the line. But for drug, what Vrisha said, you just cannot make it any shorter than that because of the regulatory hassles and all of that. But where we as academia and I would say the government are failing together is this. Here there are many scientists in this room, right? Each one of us, including myself, when we write a grant, we always use a disease as an excuse. Okay? For me it is osteoarthritis, for Vijit it is cancer. And no two people use the same disease as the excuse. As a result, we all have independent individual skill sets, like I am good at finding out what can be a target for us. Then there is, as Shailja pointed out, that Arun is there to get the structure of that. Then someone else will be there who can do the AI and talking and all of that. But all of these skill sets individually exist and all of them are working on their own direction. There is no convergence of the skill sets onto one problem. Now the question is that which should be that problem? And that's where the problem statement must come from the industry. That if there is a mechanism, see industry also like a company like Biocon has a massive CSR portfolio. And I am sure that Ms. Madhuri knows that healthcare is the only segment where you can invest in CSR within your domain of business, which is not possible in any other segment. So the question is that, can CSR grant be given to an academia? The model that I foresee, if all the stars lined up right, is that a problem statement comes from the industry. They look at the skill sets available at an academic institution and say that, okay, you have this skill set, this is my problem statement, this is my CSR money, and it can be done completely above the table because it is, as per CSR rule, it is allowed. And then academia also, see, our deliverable to the funding agencies is often quite loose, and we are kind of used to that. Right now I am facing certain challenges with some colleagues, so I know that. We also have to tighten our belt and figure out that if we are collaborating with industry, it's a time-sensitive affair. So we need to get it done right. Do not overcome it, do not underperform, that is our responsibility. Then, we can take it up to preclinical models. But you know that the real expenditure starts after that. And that's where I am told that a new government policy is coming up. So, maybe you will not know, there is something called production-linked incentive, the PLI scheme that just came up, and electronics and other industries are taking advantage of it. I am told that research-linked incentive is on the horizon. So if that comes and that incentivizes the industries to invest, because if there is anybody who has the actual number of how much the expenditure is at the clinical trial run, we will get to know. I am not absolutely certain. I know the ballpark figure that any drug, 15 to 20 years, $1 billion is the number. So, like when you buy a drug at a very high rate, it is not the chemical, it is the R&D expenditure that is being recovered. So that is something that I think can work. Regulatory, CDSCO has been doing a pretty decent job on the drugs front. I don't want to comment about how pathetic they're doing on the medical devices front, but on the drugs front, they have been doing quite all right, and I don't think there is too much complaint about that. Maybe the industry people can say. So that is not going to come in our way. What is going to come in our way is, in the whole country, I think there is only one large animal facility that you can use commercially. Okay? So imagine tomorrow, 5 NCEs are lined up, like new chemical entities are lined up to do clinical trial, like a large animal study in the country. Your wait time will be easily 2 to 3 years. We do not have the capacity. And academic institutions that have such capacity, very difficult to work. I'm being very honest.
So talking about
I just thought one more challenge I should mention, especially during the COVID period, if you look at, and we had a number of clinical trials. We had a number of clinical trials going on during that time, and almost universally the problem is that hardly any GMP or clinical grade material, or in fact most of the reagents are not made in India. I don't see where the challenge is. Very quickly the industry can take up that, and that part, all the reagents, they should be made in India. I don't know why everything has to be imported. Even just to get one particular substrate to grow the muscle cells in, we wasted nearly 1 year of the time because it's not available anywhere in the world for that time, because it cannot be imported. And when the COVID period finished, everybody else needed it because they restarted their clinical trials, so we couldn't get it there. So I think that is something definitely which is a challenge which can very easily be an opportunity as well.
Really more companies like Hymedia. They are doing a really good job.
So
Bringing down the
I-
pressure of importing and all. So, but we need more. Yes. GMP grade, yeah. So you are right. Like we also, our work is all stem cell and all. We have to depend only on imported reagents. And during the COVID, it was a hell of a job getting one bottle of APS from USA. So that is why we do realize that there should have been players in Indian market, and this problem would not have come. Which I agree with you on that. There should be more Indian players. I think IBD has taken a good lead, and we should have more companies like them.
So to add to what Vrisha was saying, we should also learn from our mistakes. And in India set up the Central Drug Research Institute, the CDRI, we had IDPR, we had Hindustan Limited, the PSUs, which were actually set up to manufacture the ingredients and the reagents required for drug development. All that was thought of and set up, but there was a degradation of all the institutions and a major reaction in just shutting them down. Why are we doing the same thing over and over again? Why are we repeating our mistakes over and over again? Because we're not looking back at the mistakes which we made, and there's no attempt to learn our lessons from these mistakes. It is very important to look back and look at what we did right and what we did wrong. And till the time we do not introspect as to what is exactly the problem. Of course, we know why IDBL, HAL went down. China happened. We got very cheap APIs available across the world. And the Indian industry was not interested in buying anything from India because they were getting equally good quality stuff at cheaper rates from China. And we were completely dependent on that. And during the pandemic, the single node supply system was exposed not just to India, it happened across the world. Across the world, they felt the pains which was held so strongly by China. And this is a very strong lesson for us to learn and imbibe and find solutions and have plan Bs ready in case of this. Everything cannot be made in India. It is stupidity to think that we'll be able to do everything on our own. We should not even think that we can do everything on our own, but we should have plan Bs ready with us where if things go wrong, what do we do otherwise? And that is one thing which, of course, the industry will grapple with, but our task of the day is to look at how do we develop new drugs and what should the academia and industry do about it.
So we've known that there are a lot of success stories, especially in terms of the development of vaccine during this COVID-19 period. Like we have a lot to learn from them. So one of the things that I would like one of you to comment on, on any one success story, let's say the curator or something. You would like to comment on that?
I'll do. So this is a really inspiring success story. Please look up. The name is Dr. Arjun Surya. He is the CTO but founder of Curative. Curative was incubated at IIT Kanpur in 2010, and in an absolute ramshackled lab, chemistry lab in the institute, with minimal help from the institute. The incubator was not really that active in those days. Arjun discovered an anti-cancer molecule, which was taken up by Roche Pharmaceutical. Please remember, it's a 3-member team without any upfront investment in infrastructure. In 2014, the drug was given to Roche for co-development for $550 million. In those days, 3,600 crore rupees. And this, in my opinion, is the path that us academic institutes should really take very, very seriously. If Arjun Surya can do that with the bare minimum infrastructure and support, collectively we should be able to do that. The problem that I see, because the Indian companies will not invest. Indian companies will not invest in that. Like Arjun successively sold 3 other molecules, all to international companies. Not a single one to any Indian entity, because they will not invest. And this is exactly the preclinical stage that I was talking about, like a post mouse rat study. But if I look at it, as I say, I am an incurable optimist. If I want to look at it from the positive side, that if we have some, Arjun had the advantage that he was working with GlaxoSmithKline earlier, so he knew which drug to go after. It was one of those immuno-enhancement drugs for cancer therapy. If we can get just a hand-holding from the industry on which drugs to go after, so that you will be able to give us market-vetted problem statement. That is acutely lacking in academia. Everybody is working on lung cancer, so we go after lung cancer, or prostate cancer, so we go after prostate cancer. We do not know exactly which one to go after, where the lacuna is. If we know that, and some funding, and government comes up with matching funding and the rest, we can certainly take drugs to the same stage at which Curative is turning it over to companies on a yearly basis. Between 2014 and 2021, he has already turned over 3 more molecules. So it is doable, and I know Arjun very well. He's a very good friend of mine. So I know the kind of workforce that he works with. So I can say with full confidence that industry needs to look a little bit beyond what they are very comfortable with, and we need to walk much longer distance. Academia needs to walk much longer distance, because at this point we are the ones who are more desperate to get in there, and we need to demonstrate that we can deliver. But if we can connect the dots, I think it will happen, it will work. And all of us, see, the other problem is that within the institutes also, there is very little collaboration. Everybody wants their own pie and protect that. We need to break certain boundaries, and yeah.
There has to be some incentive to collaboration.
Yeah, and that's where we can send a very strong message to the funding agencies. I do not believe, Shailja is here, she will testify. I do not believe that if we, if say IIT Kanpur and IIT Bombay together says that this is what I feel should be done and this is what our capability is, I don't believe that the funding agencies will say, oh, we don't believe you. It will not happen that way. We have to demonstrate our will.
So since you mentioned about this bridging the gap, between academia and the translation, where there is a significant amount of time and money that has to go into that phase where it has to reach that level of commercialization. So definitely the funding is one of the challenges. So I would like to actually invite comments from Mr. Krishnan Neelakantan, who actually represents the investing side of this aspect of trying to bridge the. So he's the managing partner of Ankur Capital, Mr. Krishnan Neelakantan. If you could give your inputs on that.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to, offer some comments on this. So one thing that I see missing over here is actually a fifth stakeholder, which I think should be the startup. I mean, that's the area in which we are, right? And especially as you know, there's a very vibrant startup community and a building ecosystem, right? And so we believe that that's a crucial area of engagement between academia and industry, right? Somebody that needs to sit in there. Because I think the point that Mr. Chirayu was making is absolutely fair, because when you're a large industry and you've got a running business which is generating profits, you're constantly under pressure to show the results of whatever investment you make, right, on a very short-term basis. Whereas the startups are there to come up with innovation that could pay off non-linearly. It may not, it may fail, it may pay off in a big way, right? And they're fully focused on innovation. So I think the important piece that I feel is to think about how we can also get these innovators to collaborate with academia in a much stronger way, because they would be the bridge, when that initiative gets to a certain point, then you'll see that larger companies will be absolutely willing to collaborate, acquire, or take over these startups, right? So that's one, just one comment that I wanted to offer. I think what Wadhwani Research Center is doing is obviously that, trying to help bridge this ecosystem. But I do feel that that's an important point to consider.
I see that startups are a very important node of this ecosystem. And of course, Amitabha said that Arjun's company was taken over by Roche. And that is eventually what is going to happen with most startups, because and that's the way it should be. They have to be looking at being bought over. I think that's the way they should be going. But if I ask across this gathering, or even the government, Amitabha mentioned that industry has not defined a problem statement. I think even funding agencies have not defined a problem statement. And this is what I need, guys. This is what you need to do. Please come together, get it done for me. I do not see that happening. Until the government also and the funding agency also does not define what is it that they're looking for, generic call for proposals is not going to help us. Generic calls for proposals are just asking for basic research projects, which is fine. Those are needed, important. But till they don't define the project or the problem statement which the government thinks is a priority and needs to be solved, whether it is rare diseases or neglected diseases or diseases with high burden, we are not defining those problems. And we are not saying, I need a diagnostic, I need a drug, I do not know, the money is not an issue. You all have to get together. These are my boundary conditions. Hundreds of people have to work together, and I will give you money. I don't see that sort of ambition coming from the government also. And that is the challenge within our system. We are not defining, nobody is, I do not see, if I ask anybody, what would you say is the most important way of going ahead with this? We'll define our problems, but when it comes to solutions and to defining the, narrowing down the problem, we will not be able to do that. And none of us will be able to do that. And that is our biggest challenge.
Yeah, Shailja, what you said, I agree with you halfway. So I am a member of committee of ICMR, it's called MDMS, Committees for Diagnostics and Devices. What we have done there, 2 exercises. Some of you might have gotten emails from us. We collected input from which are the devices that are exported in the country, the volume of export, the cost and all of that data. And we also looked at all the national health missions and tried to map the devices to some of the health missions. Why health missions? Because if it is serving a health mission, then it is almost guaranteed that government will procure it. To further strengthen it, we are taking advantage of a government machinery called HTA, Health Technology Assessment process. So if it is an HTA vetted technology, then it is almost mandatory that government hospitals will have to use that device or diagnostic. Now, this, what you are saying is correct, that on the therapeutic side, if we get this input from the government, so this is an input that went from ICMR to all the applicants, and the applications clearly stated that, as per your list, this is the imported document, this is where it maps to this National Health Mission. So this is how I would like to develop this. And then ICMR is...
replacing the existing things are there.
No, even there, let me try to explain it a little bit. During the COVID time, you saw so many companies succeeded, right? Whether it is this company incubated at Venture Center, My Labs, Nokark, Eastpin Nanotech. Why did they succeed? They did not make something out of the ordinary. They recapitulated, replicated what is already out there. But what happened is that the demand was extraordinarily high. So they could sell. Now, any product that we develop, if the demand pool is not there, it will not go to the market, and then the industry and the government will say, "Ye paisa bhi barbaad hua." So we need to define the demand statement. Before that, any investment is likely to meet the same problem. Like you were talking about APIs. Dr. Preeti is here. The total number of biological science laboratories that are there in the country will fit in one, next year's state in the United States. So the market size is too small. That is the reason why they do not develop all the ingredients for our laboratories, because the per unit cost will be, because the R&D cost remains the same, production cost remains the same, but by dividing it into number of customers, it becomes very high. So therefore, the demand has to be, it has to be demand driven, and there the statement can come from the government, and that will help.
I just beg to differ a little bit from everyone who spoke earlier here. I think when I was listening to Preeti, I really felt today morning very much close to what she said. See, the demand has to come from the clinicians and from the stakeholders to the patient. And the clinician sees every day what is needed. And there has to be an efficient mechanism by which he is able to do. Of course, they do in one way by their sending the, importing all the stuff that they see is already come. But they can also be an efficient mechanism between the ICMR, DHR, and all the medical institutions are controlled by that. So I'm sure that they get the death statistics, I'm sure they get the disability statistics, I'm sure they know where the demand lies. I know it's very clear. So if it is very clear, then those could be the topics rather than what the academia demands or whatever comes to the mind. Those could be the reasons to drive the demand, which is what happened in COVID-19. If the hospitals are demanding oxygen, the oxygen has to come. If they're demanding ventilators, the ventilators have to come. I think that's where the demand should come from. Whether it's for rare disease or for a common disease or for a neglected disease, it should, I think our stakeholders also needs to rise up and demand what they need. I think that's where the challenge lies.
You didn't differ, you actually said the same thing.
No, but you're thinking it's the academicians and the research and the industry, it's not, it has to be the patient.
It is actually the laboratory ingredients are different than the end drugs. End drugs have a much higher volume in India. Laboratory ingredients have a very smaller one.
So what we are talking of is like where there is huge demand. What about the rare diseases? How does the development of something for a rare disease, could potentially?
Can I just take on this because I work toward the rare diseases, osteogenesis imperfecta and fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva. So I saw how they organize themselves. Nobody wants to do research on a rare disease where there are only some 900 patients in the year, and so nobody will be spending that much money. And despite what we might think that the company is going to make a lot of money, I for the first time understood that company makes very little money by working on the rare diseases, so they don't want to work on it. So I saw these bunch of families, they have practically all 900 of them have bunched together. They make sure that they raise the money, they make sure that they fund the clinicians to come and meet so that the clinicians stay interested in their disease. They fund the researchers, they give out grants every year, and they fund, and they bring the industry. And they hold fundraisers, even though most of them are poor, they are coming from places like Queens in New York or whatever. But they are raising the money despite that, not being able to spend the money on their own, they are actually raising the money. So rare diseases are something which I think in general people will not take care. But they are going to the EU, they are going to the FDA, they are sending letters to them saying approve this drug now because we need it, we will die if you don't approve it. So I think that somebody to campaign is needed, and I think what it beautifully demonstrates is how bringing industry, academics, clinicians and the patient on the same platform is able to get them results in very few years. They started working on it, I think 2006 or 7 they discovered the gene, and now it is 2022 and they already have 2 drugs which have gone on clinical trial, another 5 which are in the pipeline. So they have done very well for a very rare disease.
So actually, Vrisha, you are bringing in a very interesting point. The civil society and the demand from the civil society. Savita today was telling me that lake in Bangalore was cleaned up just because the residents around the lake decided to take ownership. And similarly, the rare diseases. What happened in COVID was also the society demanded that we need solutions immediately. And the pressure of the society was so high on the government that the government had to just roll up their sleeves and deliver. The regulators, everybody came on board. If the demand from the civil society was not there, it would not happen. So I think the civil society needs to wake up a little bit more, and all of us should demand, where is my public funds going to? What is the research that is being supported? This is the disease which concerns me. Can the government find solutions to it? I think that debate and that demand from the civil society is completely missing from. We are a very docile, herd-like people. Whatever is given to us, we accept it. And we're very happy with that. We have no demands at all. Our bars are so low that we are happy with whatever is given to us. And I think we need to become a little bit more demanding in our ways. All of us should be more questioning of the government and of the people who are working within the government. Are we getting the best out of the money which has been given to the government? And this is where my concern from the industry also comes in. I see them also being so in tune and aligned with the government demands and wanting funds from the government rather than having an independent thought and wanting to do things independently. I do not see that independent thought from the industry side also, apart from the fact that you want to earn profits, of course.
At this point, I would like to ask amongst audience if they have any questions, specific questions for our panelists.
Hi.
Thank you. Very insightful discussion, really nice. So my question was to Dr. Amitabha. I mean, I agree with all your point. I think each one of you also said that there is a disconnect between academia and industry. So are some dialogues happening, sir?
Unfortunately, no.
Can we do something about it?
Yes. First of all, we need to, the first thing we can and should do is to thank WRCB for organizing this event. I have contacted few of the industry leaders. I would invite them to IIT Kanpur, and I think we should do more of that, because I would, as I was telling Dr. Preeti, that I would like to drive that conversation without any agenda. Just get to know each other. Getting to know each other is very, very important before you can do business. So, yes, we are starting. Yeah, I think startup is a very good idea, but I wanted to ask. I sit on several committees of Padhiar, etc. I don't think in the therapeutics sector that many startups are there. Like the river flows according to the gradient. Our startups are more on the agri sector, biopesticide, biofertilizer, medical devices. But hardcore therapeutic startup, very few and far in between. I know Bugworks and I know Curative. These are the only two that I know. Maybe there are 3-4 more. I would not know. Because no one has the patience to wait for 20 years. So that startup, I do not think exists. On drug delivery side, there are some startups. But yes, we need to bring them all to the table.
Yeah, sir, I think it is very interesting discussion. Earlier I was part of some of the conferences, IIT Delhi, so similar discussion was there, and the discussion went 2.5 hours. I could see that we can continue one more hour of discussion, but it's very interesting, and this was one conference happened back 5 years back. It's the same subject, and today again we are discussing on the same subject. But sir, as you mentioned, we could see some development and some of the success stories, but some of the success stories not come to the surface. So I'm from myself, Venkatramana from Paul. So we are part of the DENHAR organization, and we are basically the solution providers and the technology providers, like High Media, Dr. Prakriti, we are all sailing in the same boat. So when you see as a suppliers or vendors, first impression comes to majority of the researchers or to the industry or to the startups. They say that, okay, these guys are money makers. No. Madam, as your observation, industry always looks into that, what is the commercial value that would create, and what is the right drug market will bring that. And as our experience, some of the cases, it's not like we are here to make money. Industry is not here to make money, especially to support the society. So in terms of, as a solution providers, what we do is we keep some of the solutions and some of the equipments ready for the demo use only. Means we don't sell them. We give it for the place at the startups, translation research, incubates, and early research. For example, we talk about Covishield. Paul was initially part of to develop this in our UK lab, initial studies, and then it transferred to the Oxford. And the other one is Zolsemsa. Okay, this is also Paul developed, and the ICEL's technologies, variant technologies. That was again it started that Paul facility and a free of equipments, and only the consumables was. My nutshell of what I want to say is industry is here, and the solution providers are here to support all the translation research. So please continue to do your research. We are here to help you in the industry.
Thank you. May I request everyone to keep your questions short so that we can take more questions.
It is not a question actually, as Dr. Amitabha said, that there are a few companies working in this development of novel therapeutics. So I am glad to share that. My name is Kafil Ahmed. I belong to Tech Invention. It is Mumbai-based startup, and basically we are involved into discovery of novel antibodies for infectious disease therapy. And we have developed antibody for COVID as well, which we have got the novel sequences and we have filed a patent. And soon we will go ahead for preclinical studies. Apart from that, we have several other, novel antibody candidate. That is, one is for chikungunya. We have a poster here, and we have other pipelines as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other question? Any other comment?
Actually, I agree to you all that the stakeholders should decide in which they want to invest. Like, I have an idea in my mind. If we go for crowdfunding for academic research, we will have more money. Like, government have so much things to invest in, agriculture, defense, everything. But if government back up any plan, like there is a disease, there is a problem statement for a disease, and it is posted on the government website, and let the people decide they want to donate for that cause, so it will raise so much money. Like, India has 130 crore people's population. Only 10 lakh people understood that problem, and they donated only 10 rupees. That will generate 1 crore. So if we shift to crowdfunding mode, that will enable us to more resources and more directed approach to the problems.
It's a great idea, but it needs to be explored.
I mean, while conceptually I understand why it's attractive to use the terminology crowdfunding, but if a government doesn't invest in fundamental research and education and does not want to build a knowledge economy, then I think we will be done for if we do not depend on government to drive innovation. Crowdfunding is not a long-term solution for a country that wants to transform to that level. So I just want to put in a caveat on that.
Yeah, but if it is a problem which
it can be used for rare diseases.
yes, rare diseases or something which
Something like that, where the government is also not
when
putting
the
the
problem
money.
statement is defined, I think.
If the government is mediator, government has its own portal for that government.
Government should never be raised.
Also, the bitter truth is that we also have to earn the credibility that we can deliver. I don't think as yet, लोग मारेंगे मुझे. I don't think we have that credibility. We have to earn it.
I think the way I would like to put it is, yes, crowdfunding, but not by the academician, but the patient groups who are belonging to that particular category. They should definitely go in for it if they find that the government response is inadequate. They should do all methods. They should actually lobby with the government, lobby with their MPs, parliamentarians, everybody, and go for crowdfunding. That's what the rest of the world is doing. They're doing it for all rare diseases. I don't see why we can't do it for things we are patient with.
Like Cancer Research UK is one organization which is funded entirely by patients and patient families. It has no funds from any other organization, and it's being so impactful. I think that is a model which you should be looking at if you want to set up something like that. I really would encourage you, Cancer Research UK, just look at it.
There is something in the US called the death tax. Derivatively, it is called the death tax. It's basically a tax to prevent inheritance of property from father to son. We don't have it.
But that's why we have the
I guess we have one question from a student.
Yeah, hi, I am a student here in IIT Bombay.
Please make
So
it
my,
short.
Yeah, so my question is coming from a student's point of view for this collaboration of academia and industry. So in academia, we see that the fellowships that are paid, they are very constant, they are very stagnant over the 4 to 5 years of the doctorate. And in industry, we rarely see the higher monetary compensation for the students who are just starting their career. So what, in future, if we see a very strong, a successful academia industry collaboration, so like what should I hope for, this situation to change for the students?
But the answer is quite plain and simple. That if you are not in a biology department, unfortunately, but say you are in civil engineering department, there is massive industry consultations there and students get significant top-up salary. So if we can make products that the industry wants, industry will fund, and you will get top-up salary. That's as simple as that.
The point was that the salaries at industry also are very, very bad. They are not incentive enough for researchers to take up academic, they have it jobs as well. And I really think industry really needs to pull up their jobs. The JRF and SRF and PhD students get pittance even less than what the government pays.
I just have 2 of my students who have gone off to US, and they say everybody from their departments move to the industry because they want to get better paid jobs. So I hope that.
Unfortunately, it's a difference from India.
Yeah. So I hope things will change here as well.
Yeah, but higher up the ladder, you have to start at the bottom of the ladder. But if you don't do well at the bottom of the ladder, how do you go at the higher of the ladder? I mean, this is such a strange chicken and eggs situation that you put yourself in.
So I have an ex-student who owns a company, it's an API company. He actually complained, okay, you have raised the JRF, SRF so high that we cannot afford to hire students. That's what they think, that's what the industry thinks, that's the problem.
This is a question I would like to ask the government panelists particularly. Everybody has been talking about funding and sources of funding and industry, academia interactions. But I would like some support for academia from the government in terms of intellectual property rights. I don't think there is a clearly crafted, drafted policy for protection of intellectual property rights for scientists in institutions.
I think it varies from institution to institution, and when IITs are concerned, they have a clearly drafted policies. University system, even IIT Kanpur might have a clearly drafted one. IIT Bombay may not. A smaller IIT may not. And the government definitely there is no hand-holding for patent filing and taking the file. Paediatric does some bit of it, but not enough. And I think that this is one area which we have been saying that online patent filing needs to be done. And I suppose we get our act together slowly and steadily, but we will.
When you are asking institutions to file for CO and DSIR recognition, at that point in itself, if you draft a policy from the center and say that this is what we want you to get implemented. So
yes. There are some policies, but I think they need to be updated and constantly brought up to mark with the changing times.
So I think we'll have to really conclude this session. We've had a fantastic discussion between the audience and the panelists and everybody else from industry and academia. At this point, I will like to conclude this session and maybe give it to Devanshi to take it further.
Thank you, Professor Prakriti, and thank you all the panelists. So I'll just request Shamik Sen to hand over the mementos to each of you before you head off the stage. we can continue some of the questions in perhaps the next tea break when the posters are being presented. Thank you so much.
Zoom करो.